At first sight, by listening to this gospel, by reading this gospel, it may seem that the problem with this man was that he had a bountiful harvest, that he did well, that he had goods. But if we pay closer attention to the gospel, that was not the problem. The problem with this man in the parable was that, if you notice, he just thought about himself. He said, me, me, me. And he was just thinking about the future. I will, I shall, I will, I will, I will. That tells you that he was not really living in the present moment. And that's why Jesus uses parable to get people's attention. That as disciples, we are called to live in the present moment and to be grateful for everything that we have received from the Lord. And Jesus begins to tell this man, and he's not only preaching to this man, but to the audience, and he begins by saying, guard. He said, take care to guard against all greed. What is greed? Greed is an excessive obsession for material goods. We all need material things. We all need money. We all need resources to survive, especially with what is going on in our country and all over the world. But we have to be able to tell when we are becoming obsessed with attaining more and more things. And that's where the problem is. So I will share with you 3 things that really can help us to guard against greed. The first thing that can help us is prayer. When we pray, when we spend time in silence before the Lord, it is there that we can really pay attention to what is in our hearts, to what is going on in our heart. We'll have desires, we'll have disordered desires, and if we're not attentive to what is happening in our hearts, we can very easily go astray. We can very easily stop doing the will of God. So prayer, when we pray, when we spend that time with the Lord alone, it is there that we can really pay attention to see what our priorities are, so that when we make decisions, like St. Paul tells us in the second reading, that all the decisions that we may make them in light of eternity, thinking that all our decisions will affect where we spend eternity. The second thing that can help us really to guard against greed is generosity. That is the cure for greed, generosity. Matthew Kelly, I mentioned that before. Matthew Kelly, he is a author, speaker. He's a well-known speaker in the U.S. and all over the world. He wrote a book, and the title of it is The Dynamic Catholic. He talks about 4 signs that make a Catholic dynamic. And one of those 2 signs is that a dynamic Catholic is generous with money, with their treasure, their talent, and their time. So that is the cure for greed, to give, to share what we have. How do we know how generous we are? Well, we give in proportion to what we have. That's how we can tell if we are being generous or not. Again, not only with money, but with our time, with our talent, knowing that everything comes from the Lord, that everything is a gift that we receive from the Lord. And the third thing that can help us to really guard against greed is gratitude. Let us face it, how many times we take things for granted? The gifts that we have received from the Lord, our relationships, all the blessings that we have received. we don't really thank the Lord. But if we make it a habit every day to pause and to just thank the Lord, it will change the way we see life. Because sometimes what happens is that we just think about the things that we don't have, the things that we lack, but we don't really pay attention to the things that we do have. And for those, we should be grateful to the Lord. And even psychologists say that if a person starts to be more grateful, it helps psychologically. And people are happier if they develop this habit. So those are the three things that can really help us to guard against greed: prayer, generosity, and gratitude.